Goeiedag! Good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And this is a shout out to D. You know who you are, buddy. Oh my God. Talking about taking your pound of flesh. This week, the broad-based black economic empowerment, which is this BBBEE or BBBEE Commission, declared that the vast majority of transactions involving broad-based trusts are not compliant with the law and do not constitute genuine and effective black ownership. Now, let us remember the South African Constitution talks about everybody being equal in the eyes of the law. So BBBEE and BEE and all the other variations of that crap are absolutely illegal. And yet here they are taking the high ground and saying, hey, if you've got a company and you don't give 51% of that company to some black fella just because he's well connected to a member of parliament or he's a high up bureaucrat and he's going to really enjoy taking your cash off you, you cannot trade. This is the most disgusting criminal policy, I think, in business anywhere in the world. It is just extraordinary. Anyway, continuing with what is said here. These are the hard-hitting statements that will adversely impact most of corporate South Africa, says Sanjay Kassan, an executive in ENS Africa's corporate commercial department. He says, broad-based black ownership schemes typically entail the use of trusts that operate for the benefit of a defined grouping of black South Africans. Exactly right. The well-connected politicians and bureaucrats. Why do you think Ramaphosa is a billionaire? It's not because he is a genius, believe me. Hippo eyes wouldn't know which end of the stick the dollar is on. According to the 2017 Intellidex research report, the Empowerment Endowment, over 50 billion rand of value has been created for charitable recipients through broad-based BBBEE structures, including community trusts. Well, where the hell has some of that money gone for Durban, for those people suffering from the floods? The only people I see going into the community and delivering clothing, food, and other handouts are white people, and that includes places like the black township of Umlazi. Where are the politicians? Where are the Malamas? Where are the Ramaphosas? They're bloody grandstanding in their country clubs, aren't they? They don't give a flying F about the general population. It's all BS, as is BBBEE. All right, I'm off topic. Getting back to the story. As such, there is no question that broad-based ownership schemes have significantly contributed towards the upliftment of a large number of black South Africans who would not ordinarily have been recipients of such benefits. Well, as I said before, if you're well connected, you can do extremely well, because those white companies will be looking for those connections, and then the corruption sets in and the whole thing just goes into a big cesspool of noses in the trough. In terms of the BBBEE codes, black South Africans may hold their rights ownership in a company as direct participants or as participants through some sort of entity such as a trust or a broad-based ownership scheme, says Kassan. So here's a hypothetical situation. I've got a company which is turning over, so let's say 100 million rand a year, okay? And because of BBBEE, I have to give, this black fella doesn't have to pay a cent. I have to give 51% of my company to a black African to be able to continue to trade in South Africa. That's where Ramaphosa made his billions, in the mining industry, by becoming the majority shareholder, the sleeping partner through a trust. So he did nothing. Just a piece of paper was signed, and that company was then BBBEE compliant. And guess what? As I said earlier in a video, John Dlamini, who works in the municipal offices in Durban, would never be a recipient of BBBEE because it's all been directed to the guys at the top, the well-connected and the politicians. And they're feeling a bit starved at the moment, so they're now starting to turn the screws on again. You see this? They're turning on the screws. They are so friggin' corrupt and so greedy, it is extraordinary. Anyway, let's get back to the story here. To effectively disregard broad-based trusts as an ownership vehicle and measure the achievement of rights of ownership at beneficiary level would be inconsistent with the legislation and would render the ability to hold rights of ownership through a trust or any other entity for that matter entirely irrelevant, he said. Now, let's remember that the South African Constitution says this sort of shit is illegal. But now they're talking about this legal right to actually have a company if you're not BBBEE compliant. You can see how the cart is before the horse. The whole thing is completely cactus. It would appear that trusts still have a place in black ownership structures, provided that they operate for the benefit of an identified smaller group of black South Africans who are able to participate as shareholders of the company in which the trust holds shares, with the right to vote, the right to receive economic interest, and the right to receive unencumbered ownership of the shares at a point in time. This is called theft, legalized theft. Casson said that a rethink on broad-based black ownership is in order, at least the form in which they have been traditionally structured. There is a clear directive from the government to eliminate broad-based schemes that financially benefit the black public at large without granting them rights of ownership, as such schemes are not contributing to the ultimate objectives of changing the BBBEE ownership patterns of corporate South Africa, he said. To simply state that the vast majority of broad-based BBBEE trusts are not compliant with the law and constitute fronting is not something that corporate South Africa is going to accept easily, and such a change would also cause significant instability in a market that is already facing challenging economic conditions. Let me assure you guys that there's going to be a huge exodus of companies from South Africa. Huge. It's going to be huge. And you know what's going to happen to employment? It's going to go. You know what's going to happen to the tax collection? It's going to go. You know what's going to happen to the job creation that all the political parties are promising on May the 8th? They're going to go. You can see there's no logic. I mean, the only party that's got this right, or the couple of parties have got this right, and one of them is COPE. I spoke to Lakota the other day, and he said, we're going to get rid of BBE if we get in, and all this sort of crap. He said, it's racist. It's against the Constitution. And you can see my interview with him. But here, this paper is putting the premise that it's legal. The whole thing is a complete farce. Anyway, let's continue with the story. The threat of criminal sanction where there has been no intention to commit fronting will not, in our view, yield the results the Department of Trade and Industry and the BBBEE Commission seek to achieve. There needs to be a more collaborative approach between the government and corporate South Africa so that there can be a clear direction going forward on broad-based black ownership, he said. Casson said that until a new and simplified direction is agreed upon in a collaborative manner,
there will likely be some form of moratorium on existing broad-based structures, and consideration must also be given to dispensation for existing broad-based structures. It may be appropriate for the new direction to be applicable to a new broad-based structures established after a pre-announced future date. These thoughts would be the most practical and sensible approach in order to ensure a smooth and stable transition to a new broad-based dispensation, he said. Now, as I've said a few times already in this video, BBBEE is illegal. It's against the Constitution signed before the ANC took power in 1994. It's a form of racism. A very, very severe form of racism. And when you look at what BEE is doing to the white population, about 25% of which now live in squatter camps in South Africa, it is just appalling. You know, you're talking about a population that is educated, they've got the skills, but they cannot get the jobs because of BEE, which says that if you're not black, don't even apply. So what happens? They put in a black person in a job who is totally unqualified, completely incompetent, like Fakamani at Eskom, and the whole thing just falls in a bloody heap. And on top of that, you have a huge amount of corruption going on. It's born to fail, this whole BEE or BBEE or whatever setup you want with the B's and the E's. It is a load of crap. Now, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, and have a great day. And when you subscribe, ring the bell so that you get my updates, my video updates. And those are like, when you've rung it, you should see like a little black thing on either side of the bell. All right, guys, take care. Bye. Just an addendum again. For the record, this Sunday night, 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, link down below to the live stream channel, I am going to be having a conversation with a fellow who's self-employed, lives in South Africa, and one of the aspects we're going to be talking about is the impact of BEE and BBBEE on business in South Africa, and it's quite devastating.